Scientific and engineering inventions save lives. This is Scientific in the News in VOA Special English. History of seatbelts. Most cars have seatbelts as part of their equipment. Seatbelts protect drivers and passengers in case of accident. They also reduce the effect of a crash on the body. Safety experts estimate that the restraining devices save thousands of lives a year in the United States alone. Worldwide, some experts say the devices have protected up to 1 million people. The first seatbelt was said to have been created in the 1800s by George Cayley of England. He is remembered for many inventions, especially for early flying machines. The United States first recognized the invention of an automobile seatbelt in 1849. The government gave a patent to Edward J. Craghorn of New York City, so that others would not copy his invention. Craghorn called the device a safety belt. It was said to include hooks and other attachments for securing the person to a fixed object. Modern seat belts developed in Sweden. Other inventions followed with different versions of seat belt, but more than 100 years passed before the current widely used seat belts was developed. It resulted from a work of Swedish engineer Niels Boring. His 3-point lap and shoulder seat belts first appeared on cars in Europe 50 years ago. Boring was born in Sweden in 1920. After completing college, he designed seat belts for Swedish aircraft industry. The seat belts were built for the pilot to escape from an airplane in case of disaster. Boring's work with planes showed him what could happen in a crash at high speed. In 1958, Boring brought that knowledge to the Swedish car manufacturer Volvo. He was the company's first chief safety engineer. At the time, most safety belts in cars crossed the body over the abdomen. A buckle held the restraints in place, but the position of the buckle often caused severe injuries in bad crashes. Niels Boring recognized that both the upper and lower body needed to be held securely in place. His invention contained a cross strap that was placed across the chest and the other strap across the hips. The design joined the straps next to the hip. Volvo was the first automobile manufacturer to offer the modern seat belt as a permanent addition to its cars. It also provided use of Niels Boring's design to other car makers. The Swedish engineer won many honors for his seat belt. He received a gold medal from the Royal Swedish Academy of Engineering Sciences in 1995. He died in Sweden in 2002. American Stephanie Korek invented Kevlar. Kevlar is another invention that has saved many people from serious injury and death. Kevlar is a fibrous material with qualities that make it able to reject bullets. Added to clothing, the material protects security officers and soldiers across the world. The fibers form a protective barrier against gunfire. Bullets lose their shape when they strike Kevlar. Those bullets look like mushrooms and do not enter the body. Most threats to police and security officers came from handguns. They wear Kevlar vests to protect the upper body. Soldiers wear more extensive clothing protected with Kevlar against heavier ammunition. Kevlar might not have been invented had Stephanie Korek been able to seek a career in medicine. From childhood, she wanted to be a doctor, but she lacked the money for a medical education. Today, thousands of people are glad to Stephanie Korek become a research chemist. In that job, she developed the first liquid crystal polymer. The polymer was a chemical product that formed the basis for Kevlar. Stephanie Korek was born in 1923 in Kensington, Pennsylvania. As a child, Stephanie loved science. Later, she studied chemistry and other sciences at Pennsylvania College, now known as Carnegie Mellon University. She got a job with the DuPont Chemical Company in 1946. It was the beginning of a career with a company that lasted about 40 years. By the 1960s, DuPont already had produced materials like nylon and dacron. The company wanted to develop a new fiber. Stephanie Korek was part of the DuPont research group that asked to work on its development. At the time, she was searching for a way to make materials strong enough to use on automobile tires. If tires could be improved, automobiles would need less fuel. Ms. Korek needed a way to make stiff, resistant fibers for the job. Experiments lead to creation of Kevlar. Her experiments for the project was supposed to produce a clear substance similar to a thick syrup. Instead, what Stephanie Korek produced was unexpected. It was a liquid that looked cloudy or milky. She said she might have thrown it out, but she decided to let it sit for a while. She told VOA that she was warned that liquid could never complete the required process. The process called for the chemical to be pushed through the same holes of a spinneret. She remembers that the man operating the device at first refused to accept her material. He probably suspected it had solid particles that would block the holes. However, after a while, he said he would try it. She says she thinks he was tired of being asked, or might have felt sorry for her. That person must have been surprised when the substance passed the test. It returned from the laboratory with more firmness than anything Stephanie Korek had made before. Mr. Korek did not tell anyone that she had produced something new and strong. She said she was afraid there might have been a mistake. Repeated testing, however, did not find anything wrong. She and her group worked to improve the discovery. DuPont first manufactured large amounts of Kevlar in 1971. The material is found today in hundreds of products, from sports equipment to window coverage. Over the years, Stephanie Korek has received many awards. Her honors include membership in the National Inventors Hall of Fame. The two men largely responsible for placing Kevlar in protective clothing. Getting Kevlar placed in protective clothing resulted mainly from the work of Lester Shubin and Nicholas Montanarelli. Mr. Shubin was educated in chemistry. He worked for the United States Army in the 1970s. At the time, Mr. Montanarelli was an Army project director. He was trained in engineering psychology. The two Americans are working at the Aberdeen Proving Ground in Maryland. They were searching for a way to protect people in public life from gunfire. Mr. Montanarelli knew about DuPont's recently developed fiber, and the two men decided to test it. The men fired handguns at several materials protected by Kevlar. The material changed the shape of the bullets. It seemed a good candidate to help defend police officers and soldiers. Mr. Shubin was able to gain financial help, a field experiment. Thousands of police officers in many cities began to wear the vest, but the Montana rally said it was difficult to get companies to make them. The companies feared legal action if the bets should fail. Then came December 1975. A gunman shot at policemen in Seattle, Washington. One bullet in his officer's hand, but a bullet fired very close to the policeman struck his chest. The officer survived. The bullet did not enter his body. He felt good enough to protest being kept in a hospital that night to make sure all was well. The incident helped get manufacturers to stop worrying about legal action. They began working the vests. Today, about 3,000 people are membering the Kevin Survivors Club. DuPont and the International Association of Chiefs of Police organized the group. All the members have escaped injury or death because long ago, a chemist named Stephanie Korek produced something unexpected.